The Commission has contacts at all sorts of different levels, technical, political, with all governments, and these contacts are a very important way for us to continue doing the European Commission's work. And our door is open. All the doors at all the levels are open for constructive work with the government of Hungary and other European Union governments. Now, as to the timing and the answer to the letter arrived sometime during yesterday. I mean, we're drafting an answer, and the answer will be sent to the government of Hungary when it's been drafted. But I don't have any more information. I mean, believe me, it's getting our attention, and that's all I can really add. Mose's back, I believe. Mose, you're back. Far away. Ask your question. One more chance to this audio connection this time. See if he can correct.
Are you there? Can you ask your question now through audio?
Dana, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
please
we
go
can
ahead.
hear you.
Yeah, okay, I'll be very short. I said before that I think that the Hungarian Prime Minister himself has described Hungary as an illiberal democracy. So my question is, I also wrote it to you in the chat, is being an illiberal democracy good enough for an EU member state? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Mose. I think that this expression, illiberal democracy, doesn't belong to the vocabulary that the European Commission has developed and is using in relation to the rule of law situation in the European Union. So you quoted other political stakeholders who may be using this, but this doesn't belong to our vocabulary. As regards our position regarding the situation on the rule of law in all member states, Hungary included, you will need to wait for tomorrow, where you will see the fine print of our position, part of this first rule of law report that we have been producing following a very inclusive and long work with national governments and with all the networks of national contact points which have been established for that purpose. I will now invite you once more to indicate your interest for asking an additional question on this subject. So please only keep your hand raised at this point if you have such questions on the rule of law.